Good evening and welcome to tonight's 2020 Lakeville City Council Candidate Forum. I am Lowell Coleman of Citizens Bank, Minnesota, and a member of the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. I will serve as tonight's moderator. The timekeeper for tonight's forum is Colleen Ratzliff-LeBeau. The candidates have been briefed in advance of this evening's procedures, and their speaking order has been randomly determined. Each candidate was given a list of 6 questions in advance of this evening's forum. We have randomly chosen 3 of those 6 to ask the candidates tonight. Throughout this evening, our in-person and online audiences can submit questions for me to ask the candidates. Question cards are available here in the council chambers and online through an email at krista@lakevillechambercvb.org. Personal questions or those directed to one specific candidate will not be used. Let's meet our council candidates. Mike Roble, Richard Henderson, Robert Vandenbos, John Bermel, Hesham Shabam, Gerald Yaskard, Brian Wheeler, and Luke Hellier. Candidates, you will be allowed 2 minutes for introductions and opening remarks, 2 minutes to respond to each question, and 90 seconds for wrap-up and closing remarks. You will be notified when you have 30 seconds remaining to speak by our timekeeper with this card. When time has expired, you will be given notice with this card. And with that, let's begin with opening remarks. Mike Roble, you're first.
Good evening. My name is Mike Roble, and I'm a candidate for the Lakeville City Council. To give you a little bit of history about me, I've grown up in the South Metro area. Grew up in South St. Paul, lived in the South St. Paul, West St. Paul area in my childhood. Moved to the southern suburbs when I got married in 1990. Lived in Eagan, Apple Valley, Burnsville, and now Lakeville. I've enjoyed this area very much, and I've lived here approximately 2 years in Lakeville and about 30 years in the South Metro. I have a family which consists of my wife, Vicki. I have 3 boys. My oldest son is 26. His name is Jacob. My middle son is Zachary, and he's 22. And my youngest son is Nicholas. He's 18 and just finished high school at Lakeville North and is now on to the University of Minnesota. From a background perspective, I've worked the last 30 years in corporate America. I've worked for various companies like Honeywell, U.S. Bank, Anderson Windows, and Ameriprise. Worked in areas such as customer service, procurement, facilities, and project management. I currently am a small business owner operating a Budget Blinds franchise. I own 5 franchises which service the South Metro area. We're known as Budget Blinds of the Southern Twin Cities. We service from Bloomington down to Lake City, and then from Eden Prairie over to Bloomington. Over the years, as I've gone through my career and been involved with my children in various activities, I've always felt that it's important to give back to the community. That is my reason for running for council. I want to get involved more with the city of Lakeville. I feel that I have some good skills that I can bring forth and look to be a positive influence within the city. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Richard Henderson. Thank you for considering me for City Council. I'm a retired U.S. Navy captain. I'm the publisher of Home Business and the host of its podcast. I'm also a licensed civil engineer. My wife Stacy and I have raised 5 children here in Lakeville, all of them daughters. So I like to say I've learned to be sensitive and a consensus builder. In our community, I serve in Rotary and help to lead its Taste of Lakeville. I'm a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I'm in the chamber, and we're parishioners at All Saints. We have some big challenges in Lakeville, as it's going to be one of the top 3 cities in the Twin Cities. My top priority is to make this transition in a way that balances growth through quality economic development, that maintains the small town flavor of Lakeville. We have some great plans for Lakeville, and I have the experience and skills to help bring them into reality. Overall, I'll work hard to keep Lakeville family-friendly, business-friendly, and of course, safe. And I have the experience to help us stay resilient in the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. You know, knocking on doors, I have come across some citizens who have been steamrolled by powerful local interest. I'm self-funding and backed by no special interests. I will stand up for the little guy or gal. I'll do what's right instead of what a special interest might be pulling the strings on. I'm an outsider to city government, and I think we need that perspective. I don't claim to have all the answers, but you have my commitment that I know how to get up to speed quickly, take responsibility, exercise authority, and be accountable, just like I had to do in the military. Please visit my website at voterichardhenderson.com. As your elected council rep, my number one job will be to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Thank you, Lakeville Chamber, for hosting the event this evening. And thank you to those in the audience and streaming online. My name is Robert Vanden Boss. I'm a Lakeville resident of close to 19 years. Proud to have had my two daughters graduate from Lakeville North over the past 2 years and going through Cherry View Elementary and Century Middle School. The reason I'm here today is to be a public servant and cheerleader for the city of Lakeville. For all people, not just voters. For young and old, with more means, and those with less. Having the opportunity for all to have a voice, to unite our community in civic engagement, volunteerism, and outreach. I want all to feel included to make this great city even better. I'm an Air Force veteran, having served in Desert Storm as a boom operator, which translates to an air crew member, accomplishing aerial refueling for U.S. and NATO forces. After my 4-year enlistment in the military, I attended Normandale Community College and completed my bachelor's degree from St. Cloud State University using the GI Bill. After I've taken an oath to the United States of America when I enlisted in the Air Force, I would take pride, the honor to do it again for the city of Lakeville. I am proud in volunteering. I have recently been appointed as a patrol director for the Buck Hill ski area, bringing together over 80 volunteers to offer their time and commit to enjoy a favorite sport, along with the education, recurring training in outdoor emergency care, which is a first responder-based program as a nonprofit 501c3 to keep our guests safe. I love Lakeville, my neighbors, and my neighborhoods. I'm asking your support by voting for me starting through absentee voting or in person on November 3rd. Thank you.
Good evening. I also want to thank the Lakeville Chamber for hosting this event. It takes a lot of effort to put this together. So thank you for this opportunity. For those of you who have not met me, my name is John Bermel. I am a candidate for Lakeville City Council. I have lived in Lakeville for 30 years. My wife and Chris and I were married 28 years ago. We raised our family here in Lakeville. I have a 25-year-old son, Mitchell, and a 20-year-old daughter, Lydia, who are both products of Lakeville schools and proudly call Lakeville their hometown. We also have 2 dogs. If you've ever walked on Ipava across from Christina Huddleston, you have met them. My professional background is in municipal leadership. In 2018, I retired from the Apple Valley Police Department. I was a captain there. I served a 33-year career in Apple Valley, which instilled just this profound sense of public service. I currently serve as the Director of Security and Emergency Management at Carleton College in Northfield, Minnesota. I've done that since December of 2018. And I'm also the founder and president of Lakeville-based Influence International, which is a 501c3 nonprofit that equips public service leaders for capable, compassionate service that is not subject to personal gain. I teach that all over the world. My career has given me policy-level leadership experience. I've managed a multi-million-dollar budget of the taxpayers' money, and I have led in areas where I've had to make those tough choices. My top 3 priorities are public safety, to keep Lakeville safe, fiscal responsibility, to keep us on track there, and responsible development. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Hisham Shaban. I'm the chef of the Bagbal restaurant in downtown. I worked there for almost 22 years. I have my wife, Agatha. I'd like to welcome everybody here. Wow, good people tonight here. So I'd like to send my greetings to our mayor and her lovely wife, Deb. Greetings to our police department and fire department. Greetings to our heroes, the medical staff, they risk their life day and night for us. Greetings to all the good people of Lakeville watching us now. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jerry Yazgar. I thank the Chamber for allowing us this opportunity here this evening. My wife of 39 years, Mary Jo, and I have been residents of Lakeville since 1993. This is where we raised our two sons. Our family has enjoyed many memorable moments here in Lakeville with our friends and family. I've served as a volunteer for over 30 years at the Armed Forces Service Center at the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport, have served as a member of their board, still am a member of their board, and enjoy what I do out there. A wonderful organization. Currently serve also as their volunteer coordinator. After service in the Navy, I began a 31-year career in human resources and program analyst work. Born and raised in Little Falls, a much smaller town than Lakeville, where my family ran a small cafe for many years. I learned how much work small business owners do on a daily basis and what it takes to be successful. I want to see our small business remain vibrant as they allow Lakeville to retain that small town feel. And that's one thing that my wife and I totally loved about Lakeville. Even though it was growing and it was a big area, it was a small town feel. Lakeville does cover a large area with open spaces for opportunity and growth. We have a lot of landmass and roadways. But as a city that grows, we cannot fail to recall how important it is to support a larger law enforcement team to ensure our ongoing public safety we now enjoy. In my world, growth comes with responsibility to have an adequate number of those men and women who serve to keep our neighborhoods safe. My priorities here tonight are to ensure that funding is available and attained to increase the size of our law enforcement team, affordable housing for those 55 and older who wish to stay in Lakeville, and seek more employment opportunities for residents of all ages by working with corporate and small business employers. My hope for the future is to have people continue to think of Lakeville as a great place to live and a great place to work, a reputation worth holding on to. I thank you very much.
Brian Wheeler, Lakeville City Council. I am here to rerun. It was a very hard decision for myself. I am not a big political person, so when I first did it, I decided I just wanted to see what it was like, and I got voted in. And the 4 years have been a great learning experience for me. I'm a small business owner. I own Baldy's Barbecue here in Lakeville. I've lived there for 15 years. I have 3 kids and a wife. One just went to college, and 2 are second and third grade at Lakeview. My mission to rerun is mainly this. I'm sitting here listening to several qualified candidates. I have always said from the beginning that I don't think anybody should be in politics more than 5 to 6 years. It does take 1 year to learn everything when you're up there. It's a growing curve. And so for this rerun, I am just here to see if the city liked what I did. I don't think I came very political with anything that I ever said in 4 years. I just stood there and I was a voice of reason when I think there was the opportune time for me to do it. And I think talking to people that are local to the city, they like the fact that I'm just me. And I don't bring anything from somebody wanting me to do something or can you do something. I just go by my gut feeling. And that has been how I've led it. And if the city wants me back, they'll tell me. Or you guys.
Well, good evening, and thank you to Lowell and Colleen and Krista for putting it together tonight. I'm so thankful for the Lakeville Chamber for putting this on. My name is Luke Hellier, and I'm on the City Council now. I'm just wrapping up my first term. I moved to Lakeville in 1996 when I was in 6th grade, so I attended Lake Marion briefly, Kenwood Trail Junior High, Lakeville High School, The reason I bring that up is after graduating, I moved to college, went to St. John's University. My wife and I, after college, bought a home in Edina. And in 2014, we decided to move back to Lakeville to raise our family here because we both grew up here and loved the Lakeville community. And so in the last few years, my wife and I both, Josie, we have 3 kids, Betty, who's 7, Annie's 5, and Wally is 2. We've really made a commitment to this community. My wife has been an active volunteer in the Lakeville schools as well as the church, and I've been a volunteer with the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation, the county, and also then stepping up 4 years ago for the run of the council. Really, I see the city council as an area of nuts and bolts, right? So the most important things that I've focused on the last 3 years and will continue to focus on are public safety, roads, and keeping a lid on property taxes. I'm really proud of what I've done the last 3 years in advocating and supporting in addition to our police force. I think that's extremely important as we continue to grow. So we are ranked the safest city, large city in Minnesota. I'm very proud of that. I'm also really proud of the work that we did on the Public Safety Committee and others to bring body-worn cameras to our officers. And I think that was really important for both our community and our officers as a sign of respect. So I'll get more into that tonight, but my main goal in the last 3 years has been accessible. Feel free to reach out. You can call me 612-237-2551. I'll talk about that again. Or you can text Lakeville to 31996 and get updates on the campaign and start voting on Friday. Thanks.
Thank you, candidates. We will now move on to 3 questions which were given to you in advance. Our first question is about Envision Lakeville. Envision Lakeville was created by the citizens of Lakeville to serve as a roadmap for the future of our city. How have the community values and strategic priorities of Envision Lakeville been carried out, and what still needs to be addressed? Richard Henderson, we'll begin with you.
I believe we're making good progress on carrying out Envision Lakeville. We're increasing economic sustainability. There's excellent progress on the city's infrastructure, capital improvement plan. We're retaining some great businesses, and positive communication is attracting business. As Lakeville matures, long-term planning should better account for repurposing of industrial and commercial facilities. We also need more diverse housing for all stages of life, which may require upgrading some development standards. In cultivating a sense of community, there's been good collaboration between the Chamber, City, and Downtown Business Association regarding the Downtown Business District, and good progress in expanding community events. I'd like to see more progress on the Downtown Development Plan. There's opportunity for athletics groups to better collaborate on multi-use facilities and funding projects. And we should better integrate senior citizens as their demographic, currently at 10%, grows. In providing services that add value, Lakeville has completed a good review of operations compared to best practices. Myself, as a supporter of the Lakeville liquor model, we should look at other entrepreneurial ways to raise revenue. With the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we may need to look at new ways for virtual communications. In developing a community of choice, Lakeville is getting plugged into the bus rapid transit pretty well and implementing senior transportation options. Developing the Cedar Avenue corridor is on track, including with bus rapid transit, which will enable limited higher density development and improve our sustainable housing situation. And we should also look, a final point, at completing some of the missing links in streets and trails. Thank you.
Thank you. As Councilmember Wheeler said in his opening, it takes a year to learn. I'm on that learning curve right now. It's new to me. I don't know, but I'm trying to learn quickly, fast, and enjoying the process along the way. So as Envision Lakeville was created in 2013, for those who are not familiar, as I wasn't until recently, and again, still loving to learn, let me read and refresh its vision statement. We envision a thriving, multi-generational community where families, friends, and neighbors connect, live, learn, work, and play. Great schools, a diverse local economy, exceptional parks and trails and recreational opportunities, vibrant social and cultural institutions, safe neighborhoods, and responsive and cost-effective public services. Together, create a place where we are proud to call home. So now, as I review the vision statement, as a whole, I would agree we appear to be meeting this challenge. Some of the needs I would like to work along and explore would be in the areas of accessible transportation, understanding and sharing environmental concerns with our great growth to keep our neighbors and business owners safe. I will be the first to admit that right now I don't have all the answers, but I have a fast learning curve again, and I'm able to play well with others in the sandbox. Thank you.
Envision Lakeville it's really an impressive piece of work to bring the community together and to come up with a vision statement for a city like Lakeville. I appreciate that effort. I think we've made progress on that. When you look at Envision Lakeville, we've increased economic stability through use of tax increment financing and tax abatement. We've retained over 700 jobs in the city, and that will continue to be a focus, keeping jobs here in Lakeville. We've supported quality education, a lot of joint service between the city and the school district on committees, and there's joint training. On developing a community of choice, we've added townhomes, apartments, and over 1,800 homes, and just trying to get a variety of residential, and that provides choices as we try to find the housing from entry-level housing to senior housing. We've cultivated a sense of community, Night to Unite, 94 parties. The annual watershed cleanup day, there's over 1,200 volunteers. There's a lot going on downtown with microbreweries and events and celebrations. And we provided services that add value, which is an important part for any city. We reduced the cost of street projects by shifting away from consultants and towards in-house work on that. And we've hired a zoning enforcement officer. The fire department has started duty crews, and there's a traffic safety committee that addresses concerns during construction. So I think all of those things are good progress. Sense of community, we are starting to have discussions about race, safety throughout the community, enhancing our safety for the PD, and in terms of homes for all ages, I already spoke on that.
Lakeville success doesn't happen by accident. It takes vision, planning, and investment from the community. Over 30% of Lakeville hasn't yet developed. More decisions need to be made to meet the growth of the population in the future. Right now, we have 2 high schools, 3 middle schools, 8 elementary schools. We have a large number of our students attended 2 different schools in Farmington, Roseman, and Apple Valley. With this growth, we need to plan in new schools, and maybe we need a new post office. Our post office here in Lakeville has been forever. Thank you.
Envision Lakeville, as mentioned earlier, a very comprehensive plan. A lot of work was put into it. The key now is for the follow-through on that work. A lot of great ideas. Richard covered a lot of the things that already have been discussed among the council and other members of the community with regards to concerns. And I just want to say that the city council does play an important role in this Envision Lakeville. Without the council's work, and I do plan to do work for you as a council member to make some things happen, because you can't go and put something out there, and I've seen this work government service long enough to know that when you put something out there, it tends to get lost. It's a 5-year plan, or not a 5-year plan, but a 5-year review, and that's a long time, but a lot needs to happen, and the Lakeville plays a major role in that. When I checked on one thing that interested me a few months back was the Traffic Safety Committee. I asked if that committee has met, who's all part of it, when does it meet, because I was very interested in becoming part of it, only to find out it hasn't met for quite some time. Again, this is where the City Council can play a major role can be prompt in checking on the OPR, the ownership members, to ensure that some of these actions continue to keep moving forward and we get the progress that we want to see happen. With that, I thank you.
Being on council the last 4 years, you see the envision, and it's kind of definitely a monthly talk about with us of how to move it forward. And it's just an ongoing, I don't know how to say it, but it's like, it's a moving part of Lakeville. We sit there and we address it and we look at it and we kick it around and what more can we do to better Lakeville. But to have a stance in a town this big of exactly our path makes it very easy for a councilman to say, well, here's our path. How do we go to the next step? And you're constantly moving forward to make Lakeville better and to visualize Lakeville in your own sense and have other people discuss it, and you have your roadmap. So there's always going to be something to be addressed for the vision of Lakeville because we're going to be constantly growing, and it's a never-ending piece.
Well, I'll just say I'm so thankful for the people who have stepped up now in two different situations to participate in Vision Lakeville. It's not a one-night opportunity. People spend many hours putting this together, and I think the two things that really stand out to me that are important. Number one, developing a community of choice, and that's why I think it's so important to continue to invest in our parks and natural resources. I think if the pandemic has taught us one thing, it's that the parks, trails, and lakes are a huge asset to our community. And besides the schools, it's probably one of the biggest reasons why people choose to move to Lakeville. And so I think if we continue to invest in that, we're going to be successful in the region to continue to attract people. But the other, and I think this is really important, and that's the area of cultivating a sense of community. And I'm so thankful of the work of my colleagues, the mayor and Councilman Lee, on undertaking a real tough discussion on race. And, many people probably don't know that Lakeville is 16% persons of color population. And so I think it's really important for us to understand those stories, share those stories, and understand perspective and how we can utilize that to become a community choice. And so as they continue to work on that and the rest of the council kind of comes along, I'm excited to be a part of that and have those discussions. And so for me, I think if we focus on that, especially this year, we're going to be very successful as a community.
Hold on, one more.
Oh, one more, sorry.
It's okay. In looking at the community values and strategic priorities of Envision, I would offer the following assessment. In the areas of economic development and sustainability, I feel there have been success in the areas of attracting and retaining businesses. This has allowed the creation of jobs and in some cases higher paying jobs as well. There has also been several successes in the areas of infrastructure improvements to roadways, which supports economic development opportunities. The opportunities in this area center around the redevelopment of existing commercial, industrial, and former educational spaces. I feel there are opportunities here to repurpose these types of facilities to further attract new businesses, as well as create the potential to incorporate green spaces into these areas, which will enhance the area for residents. I would also suggest bringing in some of the LEED certification requirements into these facilities, which will also help with the improvement of our green spaces. If we move on to the areas of quality education, I feel we have an excellent school system in place, and there have been several success stories of partnering with schools and businesses for jobs training. There have also been successes in connecting the school district with the community through programs such as the School Road Safety Task Force Report and the ISD 194 Long-Term Facilities Committee. There are several areas of opportunity in this area. The key opportunity being how we take our school system to the next level, make it world-class. This would include creating programs that ensure students thrive in education regardless of barriers. We also need to further the partnerships with local businesses. Doing these will certainly help us to create a community of choice as we move forward for the city of Lakeville. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, and I apologize, Mike Robley, for almost cutting you off. Candidates, our second question that you've been provided for in advance is about a bond referendum. Lakeville parks and trails and public facilities are seeing record utilization due to COVID-19 and our growing population. Does the city of Lakeville need a bond referendum to fund expansion and improvement to the Lakeville Parks and Rec system? Why or why not? We're going to start with Robert Vandenboss.
Thank you, Lowell. Again, as I'm learning the process, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it a little bit. As new construction of homes that we have plenty and growing businesses continue to grow, creating a larger base, I would like to see our Parks and Rec be on par with those numbers. If it doesn't, we can listen to our neighbors for the option of a referendum. As I'm on a learning curve, my initial thoughts are to explore all options, as well as seeking engagement from our business partners, support in the community. Thank you.
Record utilization of the trail system in the parks, that's incredibly encouraging. And that's why we build them, and that's why a city has them. In terms of a bond referendum, I know a number of facilities are in need of some expansion and upgrading. There's an increased demand with the increased population for athletic fields, both outdoor and indoor. Antlers Park is slated for some heavy, a major project, and a Vonleh, a new park and that development are needs. The community has shown support for referendum. In past surveys, the majority of people have said, hey, we're willing to take a look at an increase in taxes to fund this. That was done in February, before COVID. And the economic situation has changed dramatically, and every one of these decisions has an economic impact to it and a price tag to it. So I think it would be important to see how COVID plays out, see how the economy plays out before we start to pursue a referendum. There's a need, there's an expressed desire for it, but I just don't think the timing is right now. I do think that the timing would be right to explore some possibilities, maybe some opportunities for some high-performance partnerships related to trails, trying to connect some things between communities and the county. I think that would be a good use of energy until we see how the economy plays out.
My answer is no. We need to contain policy of building a park for each new housing area development. If so, finance it by the builder, not by the city. The city already spent enough money from loans to fix roads because our road was so old. Now, city owe a lot of money and we need to pay this money out, so we can do it. Thanks.
The parks are something that my wife and I use quite frequently. I could tell you that we find pleasure in that. It happens to be COVID, kind of messes it up and makes it very busy right now at the parks, but all in all, the parks are a wonderful breakaway for all families. Starting up is a great form of entertainment, wonderful things to do for relaxation, and like I said, my wife and I have used them many, many times, and we'll continue to use them. As far as a referendum, I too believe that there is enough public support to support a referendum, and I would be in favor of that referendum unless I found something else that could become available. Of course, I'm not into the city at this time, so I don't know what other options we may have, but that's one thing that I do believe in doing all the time before just jumping in and saying, let's toss out a referendum. Let's look at the different options that we have available. Like I said, at this point in time, I see the referendum as the only way, and I would support that.
Well, that's a big yeah for me.
Excuse me.
We talked about slow times, you know, if I did run on something, it was ran on basically what this referendum represents. And, you know, it's like the field of dreams. You build it, they'll come. People move to Lakeville because of what we have already. People will continue to move to Lakeville for what we produce for them in the future. And the pause moment for me is, you know, I'm young enough to know 2008, 2009, 10, that range really changed mentalities of people. And nobody knows, but I don't think COVID's going to do that to our society. And I also know that it takes years for things to get done, the 5-year hints, right? So when you look at this, you're not really looking for right this second. You're planning for 3 to 5 years down the road for all the stuff to get done. And if you can be a betting man and say, oh, COVID's going to wreck us, but we're projected to be the top 3, top 4 cities in the state. So people are going to continue moving to Lakeville, and we need to have it set for them to live here and to make us one of the greatest cities that we already are.
I knew that was going to be your answer. Well, I'm supportive of a bond referendum, but again, for me, similar to John, it's timing. You know, when we had the discussion among the council in January and February, it was, let's pick a date, whether it's going to be August or November, to put it onto the ballot. The question really had to then do amongst us, how much does it look like? Are we going to be able to do all the things we want to do? And I think if you look back, from my perspective, making sure that all corners of the city, their needs were met. So looking at Antlers and doing the redo and expansion of parking in that facility. Looking at East Lake, so the kind of that northeast corner of Lakeville, that park was going to be attended to. And on top of that, building Avon Lee, which is going to be our city's biggest park. And it's an unbelievable asset that we have on that side of town. It ultimately came down for me, based on the recommendation of the Parks and Natural Resources Committee, to put a pause on that. And really, I took their recommendation to heart because they are the group that's going to drive this referendum. Referendums don't pass just because they show up on the ballot. If you've lived in Lakeville long enough, you knew that there was a long time where the school district's referendums did not pass. We have not passed a bond referendum for parks in 25 plus years, okay? So it requires a lot of volunteerism and effort to get that thing done. And so my hope is in 21, we can get back together with the Parks and Natural Resources, figure out what that right number is, and get it on the ballot sometime next year or in 22, depending on what happens with the economy. But Brian's right. I mean, I graduated college in 2007 and went into banking. Man, that was really eye-opening. So, again, I think if we look forward and have input from the community on what that looks like, I think we can be successful. So, thank you.
In looking at a bond referendum for parks, I think we need to put a pause on it for the moment and do a little bit more diligence in the area to make sure of the driving forces. If we look at where we are today, we have COVID, which is pushing on it. We have housing starts, which are pushing on it. I would caution on the COVID side, just to make sure that the demand is real from that perspective. I equate it somewhat to kind of the gym phenomenon. If you look at a gym, typically in January, you have tons of people that are going there. In February, you have a few less, March, a few less. I just want to understand the real impacts of COVID and the desire for people to get outside. I'm not saying that a bond referendum is out of play. I just think more diligence needs to be done in that area. In terms of the need, I feel that there are certainly a need in terms of trails and transportation methods, biking and so forth around the city. And I think those are certainly things that would need to be looked at. So from my perspective, I feel that a pause at this time would be something that would allow us to do a little bit more diligence and investigate it and make a better decision with the community involvement going forward. Thank you.
I support the park bond referendum, but considering COVID-19 impacts, we should at least survey the community and take a look at the finances again. I believe improved parks are integral to quality growth, economic development, and rising home values. Parks are just part of a community that wants to stay competitive. Our Envision Lakeville survey identified parks as a top priority. A park bond would focus, I think, on the largest projects such as Antlers Park Expansion, Avonlea Community Playfield, East Coast Park Phase 2, and a few other larger projects. Bonding is the only feasible way to fund these projects, and with today's record low interest rates, bonding is very competitive. A park bond would also free up resources for other park and recreational facilities. Within Lakeville's existing facilities, there are over 20 proposed items that still require funding. Our 2030 park plan identifies many new areas for parks also, and a recent citizen survey does indicate support for a park bond. You know, but can we afford it? Lakeville already spends $13 million annually in debt service, so we have to carefully monitor long-term debt and increasing park maintenance costs. But in reviewing our city's financials, we are growing in revenue, and we are at less than 20% of our legal debt margin. So a park bond referendum, I think, is technically affordable and will return greater long-term economic value and property value increases than the bonding expenses themselves. So I support the park bond referendum, but like others have said here this evening, we should, do some additional community outreach and check our finances post-COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Our third question is the last that you were given in advance of this evening's forum. This will be the last question before we turn to questions from our audience. A reminder to our in-person and our online audience members. Please submit your questions to our Chamber President, Krista Jack, or online at krista@lakevillechambercvb.org. And with that, the next question is about public safety. In your opinion, what is the role of public safety in Lakeville? What changes would you propose to the present model to meet our community's needs? How would you invite input into identifying the needs and implementation of community recommendations? John Bermel, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. I just want to start by saying people come and live in Lakeville because it's safe. Luke said earlier, we are the #1 safest city, according to safehome.org, of large cities in Minnesota, and in the top 25th percentile nationwide. So that's nothing to sneeze at. And that's because we have quality public safety. And when we hear public safety, we think police, but let's look at it holistically. Police, fire, EMS, dispatch, emergency management, all of those have some very basic roles to prepare, to respond, to educate, and to inform. When we think of public safety, though, and we look at the safety of the community, we think of police. And we look at how the role of the modern police officer has evolved over time. And police officers are doing so much more than the basic mission. An example in Lakeville here, Police Chief Jeff Long just talked about at the last council meeting in his quarterly report, the mental health initiative that they have where they take mental health workers out with the police. And it's not just to respond, it's to get ahead of it. And they take them out and talk with the families when there isn't a crisis. And those types of programs need to continue to grow. The problem is it costs money. So that's a good example of how we do it. Currently, the police department has great connection with the community through civic organizations, through the school districts, through a citizens academy, through all that. And so I would have the police department, I would encourage them to expand their citizens academy outside to the greater community and to create some kind of community conversations. Those would be two good ways to continue that mission.
To serve and protect, we need to offer more public services that invite the public to participate and to get to know each other, citizen panel, to observe policies, provide responding to the public. And also, it's not about the policing and it's in us. When you get pulled over by police officer, do not resist. You resist, you're gonna get hurt. Officer is human being. Anybody, black, white, brown, when you get pulled over, the officer there comes to help you and help us, to protect you and protect us. So do not resist. Resisting, somebody will get killed. Thank you.
The role of public safety in Lakeville. I can say that with the funds that have been made available thus far and the size of the teams, and as John's mentioned, you're not talking just the police force, although that's a main concern for me. We're talking the police and the emergency responders. There's a lot going on in that funding, and I do believe that that is underfunded. I do support the fact that we should be growing these public safety officials. I think that as a community, we have seen a lot of changes. 35W, for example, used to be just an interstate, no big deal. You went from downtown Minneapolis down to Iowa and Texas if you chose to. But now we've got a 35W corridor that's very dangerous. And not only does our police department and our EMTs get involved in some of that at times, but our whole community does. We have issues out there that we probably could never have dreamed of 20 years ago. And I would like to see that we, again, enhance the size of our patrol, enhance the size of our EMTs, and make it the community that it has been, continue to make it, I should say, the community it has been in the sense of allowing the public safety. I don't have any great recommendations at this time for public safety, only because, again, I like to look at things in a little fuller picture rather than just checking a few things out. I've checked out a few things, and what I see, we've done very well with the funding that's been provided to these groups. So, again, thank you very much.
I believe the role in the public safety in Lakeville, I believe they're going by our standard of the Envision Lakeville. They are exemplifying our model of what we live by in Lakeville. Before I was on council, I didn't know much about public safety. I just kind of went on with my everyday life. But after seeing everything that they do over 4 years that a normal person wouldn't get to see, well, you're just in awe of all the things that they do for our community. What they should be changing, I think we're great. The only thing that I would say right now for them to continue learning would be we're going to become a very large city, and that is going to change the look of our city and how it feels, and that is just going to happen. And what they need to do now is learn how to respond the correct way instead of waiting and not knowing how to respond. We have the perfect opportunity now, the city that we are, to become, when that instance comes up, we do it the right way instead of doing it the wrong way.
Well, public safety is my most important issue that I've focused on the last couple of years. As a son of a reserve officer, my dad at the age of 65 decided to serve the community and be a police reserve, so I'm proud of his work. But I'm also proud of the work that our police force and city has done the last couple of years, adding to staff every year, which has allowed us to be the safest city, large city in Minnesota. And also the work that we've done to expand the duty crew for the fire. So we've got somebody at a fire office, fire station from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and beyond, which helps alleviate some of the medical calls for our police. And as John alluded to earlier, we ask our officers today of a lot. And I'll just give you a perspective that earlier this year we get a report, and pretty frequently from the police, on overall calls. During the pandemic, whenever it was locked down, overall calls were down by a quarter or a third. But our mental health calls were even from a year ago. So think about that. Overall calls way down, but the amount of mental health calls were even. We do a great job with follow-up calls. Chief Long, 6-7 years ago, instituted that program. We have a great relationship with the local counseling outfit, but we are asking a lot of our officers, and I think if we can figure out in the next couple of years here how to implement a plan to include mental health professionals on the front end of police calls, not just on the follow-up, we may be able to avoid a lot of long-term issues and then also help people where they're at. And so I think that is utmost importance as we move forward as a community, as Brian says, as we continue to grow and for certainly be the largest city in the county.
The role of public safety is to provide fire services, emergency services, rescue services, law enforcement, and special situation services such as something for a chemical spill. While the city may not have all the direct resources to deal specifically with all of these, they should act as a focal point to coordinate and acquire the resources needed to deal with these types of situations. They should act as the central command for situations that occur within the city. I would say the city does a very good job of providing these services for the residents of Lakeville. The current times of unrest and many displays of rioting and protesting, I would suggest there be the continued monitoring of behavior in the local communities and keen sense for the spread of any such activities to the Lakeville area. I would also support the development of a rapid response team to immediately deal with any such activity that would bring harm to the citizens or businesses of the community as a result of this activity spreading into the community. Immediate action is required on such activity to mitigate the potential threat from growing out of control. This certainly is a time when one event can grow into something that is quite large quite quickly. Being able to contain or diffuse these situations quickly is critical to the safety of the Lakeville residents and businesses. I feel that for Lakeville to truly be a prosperous city that is inviting to all, there needs to be that sense of community. I would look for ways to partner with the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation to create community-type task forces that are focused on building relationships between the citizens of Lakeville, the city, and those providing services around public safety. A community that works together and respects each other will be a healthier in the end. Building that connection will be a win for everyone. Thank you.
You know, in the military, we focused on what we call building defense in depth. I think we can apply the same principle to public safety, where the role is to build safety in depth. It's more than just police patrols and fire prevention. Lakeville's public safety role should continue to be a linchpin that connects into the city at large for greater security and safety awareness. This role includes, goes down into COVID-19 resiliency, mental health, domestic abuse intervention, citizen police academies, water safety, code enforcement, the academies, and most importantly, aggressive liaison with community outreach organizations. This is a broad safety tapestry that goes deep into the community. Often underlooked, public safety should also be ready for emergency or man-made or natural disasters and the emergency management that comes with that, something I had a little experience with the military. I can't think of any significant changes that I would propose to the present model to meet the community needs. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I believe Lakeville has the highest quality public safety services and people, and it is adequately funded. The only recommendation I might humbly make is to look for ways to better implement community-oriented policing, which is difficult with the large area and decentralized Lakeville and without an urban core. And as Lakeville grows, we might have to look at hiring more full-time fire support. But if I could steal one of John Bermel's ideas, good ideas, I would also recommend expanding the police academies. They've had some good feedback. When significant threats to public safety come up, I would consider this as the best time to get for public safety officials to reach out into the community and identify needs and gather recommendations for improvement. Thank you.
Well, public safety near and dear to me as part of the EMS and first responder in my passion, which is volunteering again. Again, with public safety, it's the largest components of the city's resources, and we ask a lot of roles for these personnel. Some of these roles include alert system, biohazards, disaster preparedness and relief, emergency response, firefighting, incident and command structures, mental health understanding, police community relations, risk management, substance abuse, terrorism, both domestically and possibly international, use of force and violence, and many more. Early on, when I first came about with this, I reached out to Chief Long and Meyer to listen and learn, try to understand some of our local issues in these departments, to understand how Lakeville operates. On both sides of public safety, both fire and police, I believe we have outstanding leadership and professionalism. I am thankful and believe they are meeting our current needs. Now, with that said, let's not forget some of the support that they get and thankfully so, from the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation. Some of the ways that we can invite, the second part of the question would be to take what we have currently in place and hope to engage our community to attend all events that we have and opportunities that are planned out on the Lakeville calendar and website. Looking for new ways to reach out with existing social media and of our neighbors sharing, communicating with others to get the word out. We owe it to our children and community. Also, part of this is with the, an option is looking at a foot patrol, perhaps, a little bit more street presence in a friendly manner, reaching out. And it sounds like the Citizens Academy I was hoping to enjoy because of COVID, didn't happen, and hopefully in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We'll now move on to the period of the evening where we'll be accepting questions from our online and in-person audience. The first question we have for you this evening is as follows. How does the City Council and the City of Lakeville promote equity and inclusion within our community? How could this be further developed? Hisham Shaban will begin with you.
Is totally adequate. People lucky to live in Lakeville. We are the safest town in Minnesota. I have a good people work here. I remember last year, my mother-in-law, she comes from New York to visit us, and we went to shop in the supermarket, and two little kids come with a little wagon in the back of us, say, excuse me, please, my pass. And my mother-in-law look in the back, she got shocked, see what's going on, you know, she never heard this work in New York. And they pass, and thanks to the family, they educate the kids, because the education starts at home first, and then start in the school second. And my mother-in-law, she called me yesterday. She want to move to Minnesota, to Lakeville. She wants to buy a house, and she wants to open business. Because what she see from people here, the good attitude, the smile. She didn't hear no way if word one time she stay with us for 2 weeks. That's why Lakeville is the best place to live and raise a family. Thanks.
Could I get a summary of the question again?
How does the City Council and the City of Lakeville promote equity and inclusion within our community? How could this be further developed?
I would say the one thing that it can be developed by is by getting out and reaching out to our community members, as our schools have done. With the recent COVID, we had to do a lot of questionnaires, and we found a lot of things where people have a difficult time integrating with the community. And I would say creating more programs where we could actually invite others to the activities, whether it be a council meeting, whether it be a Run for the Roses parade here in town, but to invite those that are a little hesitant to get involved, help them make that step to come forward and be part of the community. And as a council, I do think too that the council could do a lot with making a lot of the folks that are not familiar with Lakeville, again, having just maybe moved in or maybe having difficulty in speaking with someone, making those acknowledgments for them to come forward, I think would be a great help in equalizing a lot in our community.
For the city of Lakeville to, have equity and inclusion, it really comes from a grassroots perspective. It comes from the people in our city to decide they want change or they want something different. And the role of city council is to hear what they have to say and help if we can, and create the platform for them to be able to use. But that all comes from one person to the second person to the third person, and it creates a movement. And in Lakeville, you know, we've kind of created the movement with just a few what's gone on because we saw it. And I think we're moving. We haven't even scratched the surface of the equality issues and things like that, but I think the movement is with us now, and we all see it. Maybe a year ago, half of us saw it, or less than that, but now we all see it. And with the movement of what's going on, believe in all of it, believe in none of it, believe in half of it, there is change that's going to happen. It's going to happen with the grassroots movement of our own citizens. And as a city councilman and as a city and a mayor, we're here to acknowledge what people want and try to make it happen.
You know, I went to Benedictine University, which means it's old and Catholic, but they have try to live by what they call the Rule of Benedict. And the prologue of the Rule of Benedict is summed up as basically saying, listening with the ear of your heart. And that has been my goal in the last 3 years on the council, and will continue to do that, to understand diverse populations, understanding where we need to go and lead when it comes to diversity and inclusion and equity. As Brian said, it really takes the community to participate, and understanding socioeconomic differences and where people are coming from, and understanding life cycle housing and coming into the city at a certain age and so forth. But I mean, we can have conversations, but I think it also takes action. I think one of the proudest things that I've done on the council is we have the privilege to appoint people to different boards, whether it's the Planning Commission, Parks, Natural Resources, and others. And I've made it a point to expand the diversity of these commissions and boards since I've been elected. And that's something I'm really proud of. And if I get reelected, will continue to do that. And if not, I'm still proud of the work that I did to expand the diversity on our board. So thank you for the question.
From the perspective of expanding the equity, I think it starts within the neighborhood. You have to start it at the local level, the people that you know personally, those people that you see on a regular basis, the people that you interact with regularly. From a council perspective, it's how do you foster that to get that to kind of nurture and start at that level, and then grow it into something bigger that becomes a kind of a community of culture. And that happens over time. So I think really it's to support the local neighborhoods, do maybe more activities that get people to interact and become more of that community type thing at that level, and then to try and expand it out to the bigger, broader community of the city of Lakeville. It will take time, certainly. There's many changes that we're facing today and many changes that will come in the future, but it's really, I go back to the points made earlier of it's really a grassroots, starts at the local level with the neighborhoods and trying to get it to foster there and expand into the greater community. Thank you.
You know, I think it also starts with a lot of, outreach from the city. And, as diversity grows, take a look at, putting together some kind of a structure with working groups to start the dialogue. The city government has done some very effective things with communication, like with COVID-19. They can also do a similar communication on outreach regarding diversity, equity, inclusion to get feedback on that. A couple of larger issues that are at the root of equity inclusion in the community is the affordable housing situation, which people kind of tiptoe around a little bit. Just record low affordability, and some of the ways through development and policies to improve the access to affordable housing. That'll improve equity. Also, often neglected in this discussion is transit, which is kind of an equalizer to helping people with mobility, and there's some issues with Lakeville improving on that. I think that, as we've heard here this evening, the city council can facilitate a lot of these discussions and it's kind of, the leadership to get the dialogue going and build upon that. And I think at the end of the day, knocking on doors and talking to people, this is just a very, very strong community. And I think if you get at the grassroots with the community out focused on this, just like the Nation's Night Out with law enforcement, I mean, the community will step up, and the strong community will take and run with the solution. Thank you.
Well, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm proud to be a first-generation American. Both my parents from different countries, understanding that process, reaching out to others when I can, and listening to their stories. Part of this could be starting with talking with our youth within schools, exciting them, making them want to be part of the process. Sometimes this is so distant. I'm sure you've all experienced here how few people end up in here. I've always been curious about the percentage. I ask around as I meet people. It's very few, and I want people to be engaged. We have some wonderful things in Lakeville here. When my daughters were young, we were so excited every in October, Fire Safety Month, to bring them, to let them see the fire facilities. That's exciting. I mean, again, the Chamber, we held an event this Saturday. What a wonderful opportunity to bring people together. I wanted to see more people. How are we going to do that? I mean, that's kind of the question right there. And, again, I'm looking for some of that. I want to be part of that, to be a cheerleader, whether it be social media, to promote, to engage people, to get them out. And part of that will need to be openness and compassion and understanding along the way. Part of, as you were mentioning, Luke, the diversity board, you've inspired me. I want to be part of that dialogue. I want to be part of that board. I want to join. So thank you.
Great question. Thank you, whoever brought that one up. We need to start looking inside ourselves, and we need to look inside ourselves as individuals, and we need to look inside ourselves as a community, and that's the role that the council has, is to help facilitate that. When you look at diversity and inclusion, the first thing we need to do is just figure out who we are and what we're all about, and I'm really excited about the city council initiative to have these race talks and these race circles. I did that when I was leading police. We initiated community conversations, and I'll tell you what, when you just, I won't use the term shut up, when you do just shut up and listen, you learn amazing things. And so that's where we need to be, and that's where we need to approach this. There are some pitfalls. One of the pitfalls is tokenizing people, making people projects. We need to avoid that. This needs to be relational. The only way we're going to be real successful is to get face-to-face. It's not something where you read a newsletter. It needs to be face-to-face. The other pitfall that we have is just making assumptions about what diversity and inclusion looks like, and understanding that we have a breadth of economic situations in this community, cultural backgrounds, and we need to embrace that rather than try to fix that. So I think that's the best approach that we can take, is just take all of our diversity, embrace it, and get out of this mindset that it's something that we need to fix. Because it's a problem that didn't start overnight, and it's not going to end overnight. So we need to look inside ourselves as a community, and we're starting to do that now. I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
Our second question from the audience: why should the city of Lakeville be in the liquor business? And what benefit does a fourth city-owned liquor store bring to Lakeville? Gerald Yaskar, we'll begin with you.
Why should it be in the liquor business? There's money to be made in liquor. It's that simple. To me, having a liquor store in Lakeville, I can tell you that I would rather purchase from a municipal liquor store. Because again, I know where the end result of the funds will go. I do believe that having that fourth liquor store would be beneficial to us. And I laughed at first and I'm serious about it though, in the sense that there's money to be made in liquor. I've got many relatives and friends and families that have owned liquor stores over the years, and they tell me the same thing. Now, is that an easy job? No, it's not easy, and it's not always fun, especially if you get a drunk that comes in their place. But at the same time, knowing that we can generate some revenue on that as one source of income for the community, I would say that having a fourth municipal liquor store would be just fine with me.
Well, this goes back to my first initial, I became a flip-flopper like day 2 of my whole being in here. I was against the liquor stores at first, but I don't know who this person is, but they're probably in the same boat as me. And I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm like, I'm out there at the mixed stop and there's no liquor and I want a liquor store, and I come in here and I'm saying we should get rid of it and everything else. And then I find out what actually the municipal liquor does for our community. And when you get to learn all those numbers and how it helps every single citizen in Lakeville with the tax dollars and how, what you would pay if we didn't have it. And then you learn, the biggest learning for me was you learn how many actual other liquor stores, if you just said liquor stores, came in, how many it would take to produce the same type of tax revenue that our municipal liquor stores create. And don't quote me, but it's like 50 to 70 more stores to create that $1 million to $1.2 million of revenue that it would take to surpass our liquor stores. So now I'm on the liquor committee, and so the fourth store, if anybody watched the last city council work session, I really I pushed and pushed for that fourth store because it, like he says, there's money to be made in it, and it's only going to continue to help our city.
Well, thanks for this question. It's actually an issue I really wrestle with. And I'll tell you, we're lucky that we have the most profitable liquor operation in the state when it comes to municipal liquor. So that helps a lot. And, really the city has done an unbelievable job partnering with our nonprofits, whether it's the Rotary or the Lions Club or whatever, or the Chamber and Lakeville Public Safety Foundation, offering items and things for silent auction. So I'm appreciative of that. I was not supportive of a fourth liquor store at this time. Number one, we're in the middle of a leadership change in the liquor operation, so I was concerned about moving forward on a new liquor store without having somebody in place. But two, I'm really concerned looking forward about what's going to happen to the economy. 2021 with the budget it's going to be tough. We're not adding a ton of staff, if any, I don't believe. But when we look at 22, 23, if we see a decline in property value, especially the commercial level, that puts a big burden on the residents. And so at the same time, we've been able to use some of that liquor revenue. If we build a fourth store and we divert some liquor revenue to pay the bonds to build that store, there's less liquor revenue to pay for fire trucks or police cars or other things that we may need to rely on as we're getting through this very odd economic time. And I'll just say, from a philosophy point, it really came to head during when the pandemic really hit in March. Is liquor a core function of government? And I think the community needs to have a really broad discussion about that and what the future should look like. So, that's what my hesitation on fourth store. I think what we have now is good, but I think we need to have a real long-term conversation to see what that looks like.
When I think about city government being involved in a liquor store, it seems a little bit strange to me. But as a business person and an entrepreneurial side to me, the revenues generated are something that are certainly very beneficial to the city. So I feel that being in the business, when we look at opportunities for the city to generate revenue and how people can benefit from that, it makes sense that something like a liquor store would be a business that the city would get into because of the opportunity that exists there. In terms of operating a fourth liquor store, I'd have to understand the demand and the risks. If I understand there's a new director that's coming into place for the liquor operations. Just kind of understanding the whole dynamic behind that before just, jumping in and saying a fourth liquor store is definitely something that needs to be invested in. But if it does warrant that there's plenty of opportunity there and more revenue could be generated, operating profitably, it certainly would be of benefit to all the citizens of Lakeville, and I would support it from that perspective. Thank you.
I support Lakeville's liquor model. It makes good business sense. It generates $4 million in revenue with net $1 million back to the city and also creates local jobs in addition. In principle, the government shouldn't be in a business like this, but I think we should make exceptions when it makes sense and not be rigidly ideological on a smart move like this. Also, with having city liquor, you're regulating what can be sometimes a troubling business, and where in Lakeville, the Lakeville liquor runs very well. I think that the stores are attractive and provide some uniformity. As far as demanding or expanding to a fourth liquor store, I would do that strictly based on a market demand. Is the demand there, and will you get the traffic? But one thing to end on here is how much they do for the community, and I saw that firsthand with Taste of Lakeville. They were a deep partner on that. And despite the COVID pandemic, we almost raised over 50% of what we usually would, and we would not have accomplished that without the partnership of Lakeville Liquors. And so, and all that money is going back into the community. So, and then there's, they foster the wine club. They foster a lot of community social events, and it's just been a net positive. So. The bottom line is I think it's a good move, but expand as the market allows. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Do I support it? The fourth liquor store? When? I don't know. Do I support municipal liquor? Yes. Yes, it creates revenues. My big concern, my issue, which I don't know, in this learning process is how does it affect public safety concerns, whether it be something from in-house to not. And that's where I'm worried that it might place additional burdens, and how does that play out? So that's my feeling. Thank you.
This is another one that I struggle with. There's a philosophical side to this, and you can't argue with the business side. You're making money. Which leads to the philosophical question, what's the role of a city? Do we provide service, or do we take opportunities to make money? And to me, that's where the big struggle lies in terms of the first part of the question, why should we be in the liquor business? I'm not sure we should, for a philosophical principle. Once again, it's hard to argue, $1 or $1.2 million a year, but you have to ask, I think, you had asked about it, Robert, what's the price of that? Because there's a cost beyond dollars here. I've seen it, and in my career in law enforcement. So that's the first part. All things equal, what is there gained by a fourth store? I think you got to spend money to make money. I agree that this is not the time to start something like that. And we got to remember, it's not just building a brick and mortar and buying land. There are people involved here too. And until the economic situation will surely support that, to me, that's a big risk.
I support any business generate money to the city. Any money comes to the city is needed. Any single dollar we need it to pay our debt. We borrow a lot of money from the banks to remodel the roads in Lakeville, the old roads, and everything is done. Now it's time we are paying our bills. So I support local store, Taste of Lakeville, anything generate money to the city. Thanks.
Thank you, candidates. We're now at the conclusion of our forum. Each candidate will have 90 seconds for closing remarks. Brian Wheeler, we'll begin with you.
Well, Lakeville, if you want to see me for 4 more years, vote me back in. I'll just leave with this. Almost half of the panel up here quoted something that I said, so they must trust me too.
Thanks, Brian. I want to say thank you to the Chamber for organizing and all the community partners who were part of this. We didn't get a question about business, so I'll take a brief point of my last 90 seconds to talk about that. And you know, I'm really proud of the work that I've done over the last year, in particular the last 6 months, working with our business community to respond to the pandemic. Really proud of the work that Brian and I have done to allocate nearly $700,000 from Federal CARES Act money to support the smallest of small businesses in the community, in particular those that were closed during the pandemic, not even allowed for pickup, barbershops, gyms, salons, those type of places, and helping support them. So as we try to rebuild our economy and restore our way of life, we can do that all together as a community. So I ask for your vote again this year. Early voting starts on Friday. As I've mentioned, feel free to reach out to me on my cell phone. All my contact information is on votelukehellier.com, or you can text Lakeville to 31966. Thank you again for the opportunity.
In closing, I would like to thank the Chamber for allowing us to be here tonight. I appreciate this very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak. In closing, I would just like to kind of talk about myself and what I bring to the table in terms of a candidate. The skills and abilities that I gained in corporate America will certainly play out well in this type of setting. Fiscal responsibility, project planning, how to get the job done, communication, customer service skills, all things that would be a benefit to someone that's on the city council. In addition to that, being a small business owner, I started as a small business owner in May of 2019. My first year was pretty much living through this pandemic. I've been through the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, and I think that I could be an integral part in helping us rebuild the community in terms of what businesses need to go forward. With that, I'd like to ask that you please consider me with your vote in the election this fall. Thank you.
Well, thanks for hanging in there tonight, and thank you for the Chamber for hosting this. You know, I believe that I have the right mix of technical management and leadership skills to guide Lakeville as it grows into being a dominant city in the Twin Cities metro. As a small business owner, I deal each day with the tribulations of managing costs and growing revenue. I'll take pride on serving on the council and making decisions that shape our community for the next decade or two. I'll work hard so that 20 years from now we'll be the community of choice and still have that small town flavor. I don't have all the answers, but I know how to ask the right questions, and I'm flexible when it's time to shift rudder. I'm shocked at the increased polarization that's gridlocking so much of national and state governments. I'll work to keep Lakeville government friendly and nonpartisan, where one strives to find something good in a viewpoint they disagree with, just like we did in the Navy. And as a Navy vet, I traveled the world, which has given me an extra appreciation for what a special place Lakeville really is. So, please visit voterichardhenderson.com and follow on social media as I document the campaign. And again, as a city council member, my #1 job will be to listen to you. I'm Richard Henderson. I welcome your support, and I look forward to meeting you when I'm out on the campaign trail. Thank you.
Thank you, Lowell, Krista, and the Chamber of Commerce, and to the other candidates. Wow, what an opportunity for me tonight. Was a little nervous, but this seems to be working, and I'm so excited. Thank you to those who are in person and streaming online this evening. I am proud to call Lakeville home, having raised my daughters through the wonderful school district 194. Thank you to our educators. Thank you to our public safety departments who watch over our community to keep us safe. Thank you for our parks, which has provided many of us some relief and joy during this time of COVID. Thank you to those who volunteer within our community to have Lakeville be such a fantastic place to live. Thank you to our seniors in Heritage Center. Thank you to those in Public Works, and as winter approaches, keeping our roads plowed and safe. Thank you to our public workers for your dedication to keep the city of Lakeville moving forward. Last, I would like to thank the Lakeville community as I've been out in the neighborhoods, events, and businesses, allowing me to listen to your concerns, the share and exchange of ideas. So, allow me the opportunity to serve you on the Lakeville City Council. Please reach out to me, whether it be email at votevandenboss@gmail.com, my website at www.votevandenboss.com, send me on Facebook or Instagram at votevandenboss Lakeville City Council, or reach me by text, or please give me a call at 952-288-3546. Let me say that again, 3546. I am asking for your vote starting the 18th and vote in person on November 3rd. I want the chance to be your cheerleader. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you again to Lowell, Krista, the Chamber, for hosting this. And I want to say thank you to everybody who has taken the time to listen, for considering me as a candidate for Lakeville City Council. I'm ready to serve. My entire life and career have been public service, including time in Lakeville here. I love this community, and I give for it. If you want to learn more about me, or reach out, electjohnbermel.com, or you can text to my cell phone, 612-709-0180. A number of you are already taking me up on that, and I appreciate those conversations. It's been a kick getting to meet everybody and doing the door knocking and hearing what's on people's hearts. I really enjoyed that. I'm prepared for this. My professional career, my personal life, the values that were instilled in me by my parents have prepared me for this. And so I am just grateful for this opportunity for you to accept your trust in my capability for this office. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone attended here tonight. Good job, everyone. There's something troubling me. Last week, I read a report from Georgetown University about November 3rd election between Democrats and Republicans, and they come with 4 conclusions, and all the 4 conclusions are very bad. So the left get Antifa organization, the right got Q organization, and both extremists. So we need to be united. Media, Republican body, Democrat body is all dividing us. We can beat them all to be united. We are the United States of America, the strongest country on earth. Nobody can mess with us from outside, but they needed to mess with us in inside, and it's not going to happen. We're not going to fight each other. So we need November 3rd election to go in peace, and I need from every candidate to not attack your opponent. You're on TV. A lot of negative ads is not good. Be positive, like back in the days. We need the positive. We need your agenda. I don't know Trump's agenda or Biden's agenda so far. They're both attacking each other. So stay safe and good luck for everyone tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, City Council, or not City Council, Lakeville Chamber. I want to thank you all for hosting this tonight. Like a few of us here, this is new for me, and I will say it is a little different. Haven't been in a public forum before. And I want to thank those that are here in the chamber tonight for being here. I also thank those watching tonight's forum live and for those watching later. Lakeville has a reputation as a well-run city, and I want to be part of expanding on that reputation as we continue to grow. Like Brian says over here, I'm not a politician. I'm a person, though, who does believe in doing a job responsibly and listening to all sides to achieve an end result that is beneficial to all. Solutions for today that won't cause problems in the future. This takes time for us to listen, research, and learn, and I'm ready to do that for our community. Far too often, we get council candidates who say they support public safety. Then why would it take a council member 2 months to resend a response back after asking for some public safety assistance? A statement that would say something, we'll continue to monitor and adjust as needed. That to me is not a comment that's needed. The real help is getting into the work, finding out what our options are and what we can do. As mentioned, I came from a hardworking family and a small business family, and I'm a retired veteran. I know what it's like to work, and work is more than we'll monitor and adjust. I want to work with you to help ensure we minimize our tax increases, that we increase our road safety for all, and increase our law enforcement to meet our demands. I cannot do this alone, however. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 3rd ballot, and I also want to let you know we just launched a website, jerryasgar.com. I ask you to review it. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. On behalf of the businesses and residents of Lakeville and the Lakeville Area Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank each candidate for your passion to serve and your participation in tonight's forum. I'd also like to thank the City of Lakeville and staff for the use of the facility and recording tonight's event. All forums will be rebroadcast on LGTV, Channel 180 on Charter and 187 on Frontier, and online at the City of Lakeville's website. You may also contact the Chamber office for the link. The Lakeville Area Chamber of Commerce has not and will not endorse any candidates in this election. Good neght, and remember to vote on or before November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.